The night was quiet, too quiet for Sonn's liking. The kind of silence that doesn't calm you, it stirs something deep inside. The world outside his window was painted silver by the moonlight, and in that stillness, he heard it, a voice, soft and close. "Go with the flow," she whispered, her tone calm yet heavy, as if she already knew what was coming next. He froze. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something else. Something between surrender and realization. You know, sometimes life doesn't wait for your permission. It just drags you into moments you never planned, never prepared for. And that's exactly what happened to Sonn. He wasn't chasing anything big.
No fame, no druin, no miracle.
Just another ordinary evening, scrolling through unfinished thoughts and unanswered messages, until that whisper changed everything. He looked around the room. Nothing. No one. Yet that voice, it lingered, wrapping around him like a breeze you can't see, but can feel in your bones. "Go with the flow," she said again, but this time, it wasn't from outside. It was inside his head. Inside his heartbeat. He took a breath. Maybe he was losing it. Maybe he was finally waking up. In today's world, we're all searching for meaning, chasing perfection, control, direction. But what if the truth isn't in control at all? What if it's in letting go? Sonn didn't know it then, but that night would become the turning point of his life. A moment where everything he thought he understood about destiny, love, and purpose would begin to blur. He stepped outside, barefoot, feeling the cold ground beneath his feet. The air smelled of rain, like something new was about to begin. Far away, he could hear the river murmuring, calm but powerful, flowing endlessly. And maybe that was the sign he'd been ignoring all along. As he stood by the riverbank, he whispered back, almost without thinking, "I'm enjoying this." The words surprised even him. It wasn't joy he felt, but a strange peace, as if surrender was the only way forward. But then something moved in the water. Just a ripple at first. Then a shadow. He leaned closer, heart pounding. The reflection staring back wasn't his own. And just like that, the whisper returned, closer this time, almost touching his ear. "Sonn, go with the flow." He turned sharply. Nothing. Only the sound of rushing water and the echo of that voice fading into the wind. But deep down, he knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. And what happened next changed everything. The river kept flowing, calm and endless, as if it carried secrets that the world wasn't ready to hear. Sonn stood there, staring at the water, his breath visible in the cold night air. The reflection on the surface trembled, breaking into tiny. Sonn had always been the kind of person who wanted answers for everything. He liked structure, routine, and a sense of control over his life. Go with the flow, those words didn't fit him. He wasn't the kind of person to surrender. Yet, lately, life had been pushing him in directions he didn't understand. His job had become a blur, his friends distant, and every morning felt heavier than the last. Maybe that was why the whisper hit differently. It didn't scare him as much as it awakened something he'd buried, curiosity, or maybe longing. He remembered her voice now, soft, calm, with a trace of sadness. But whose voice was it? He couldn't place it. It wasn't anyone he knew. Not his mother, not anyone from his past. Still, it carried a strange warmth, as if it had been waiting for him to finally listen. The night deepened, and the city lights in the distance flickered like restless stars. Sonn started walking along the riverbank, each step echoing against the stillness. The world felt slower, almost suspended. Every sound, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the whisper of the breeze, felt magnified. He thought about how many times he'd ignored the signs life threw his way. Maybe this was one of them. Maybe go with the flow wasn't about giving up. Maybe it was about trusting something bigger. As he walked, he noticed a small object caught between the rocks near the edge of the water. It glimmered faintly under the moonlight. He knelt down and reached for it, a small silver pendant, half buried in sand, shaped like a drop of water. When he touched it, a chill ran up his spine, and for a split second, he thought he heard the whisper again, faint but clear. "Don't stop now." Sonn's heart pounded. He looked around, empty. Just the endless flow of the river and the echo of those words circling his thoughts. He slipped the pendant into his pocket, unsure why he felt the need to keep it. But somehow, he knew this was only the beginning of something he couldn't explain. And as he turned to walk back home, the wind carried one last sound, the faint echo of a laugh.
Soft.
Familiar. And impossibly close. By the time Sonn reached his apartment, the city had gone quiet. The streets that were always filled with noise now seemed hollow, like the world was holding its breath. He placed the silver pendant on the table, staring at it as if it might explain itself. It didn't move, didn't glow, nothing magical about it. And yet, the longer he looked at it, the more uneasy he felt. He couldn't shake the thought that the pendant had been waiting for him. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same image, water flowing endlessly, carrying fragments of voices and faces he couldn't recognize. He'd jolt awake, heart racing, the sound of her whisper still echoing faintly in his ears. Go with the flow. But what did it mean? Why him? The next morning, everything looked normal, too normal. The sunlight felt off, the air too still. When he reached his office, he noticed strange things. His co-workers acted distant, almost distracted, whispering quietly when he walked by. His best friend, Ria, avoided his eyes when he greeted her. Sonn tried to brush it off, but something inside told him this wasn't coincidence. Later that day, Ria finally approached him, her voice low. "Did you go near the river last night?" she asked, eyes wide with worry. Sonn froze. He hadn't told anyone. "How do you know?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Because I heard her too." The words hit him like cold water. Before he could respond, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dark for a moment. In that darkness, the same voice returned, soft but commanding. "Don't fight it, Sonn. It's already begun." When the lights came back on, Ria was gone. Sonn stood frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The office lights flickered again, humming like something electric and alive. He called Ria's name, his voice echoing through the empty hallway, but there was no answer, just silence. Her desk was still warm, her bag still there, her phone buzzing with unanswered messages. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. His hands trembled as he picked up the pendant from his pocket, the metal colder than before. For a second, he thought he saw it pulse, faintly, like a heartbeat. He rushed outside, the city spinning around him. The air felt heavier now, thick with something unseen. Every person he passed seemed blurry, as if their faces didn't belong to them anymore. His thoughts raced. What if the whisper wasn't calling him, but warning him? What if go with the flow wasn't advice, but a command? Sonn's phone vibrated. A message flashed across the screen. "Meet me where it began, no number." No name. Just those words. He knew it could only mean one place, the river. He ran, every step echoing with the memory of that whisper. The sky had turned gray, the air restless, the wind sharp against his skin. He called out again, "Ria?" But instead of her voice, the river answered. The surface rippled, and from its depths came a reflection, not of him, but of both of them, standing side by side. Her face looked calm, almost peaceful, but her eyes pleaded for something he couldn't understand. Then came the voice again, louder this time, surrounding him, coming from everywhere at once. "Sonn, it's time to choose. Flow or fight." The voice echoed through the air, and for the first time, Sonn felt like the world around him was shifting. The ground beneath his feet trembled softly, and the rhythm of the river matched the pounding in his chest. He looked at the reflection again, Ria's image beside his, but this time, her lips were moving. She was speaking, though no sound reached him. He tried to read her lips, but the water distorted every word. Desperate, he stepped closer, his shoes sinking into the damp soil. The pendant in his hand began to vibrate gently, sending a faint warmth through his palm. Suddenly, the reflection in the river rippled violently, and the world around him dimmed, as if someone had turned down the brightness of reality. The city lights flickered in the distance, then faded, replaced by something unfamiliar. Sonn blinked, and when he opened his eyes, the river was gone. He was standing in what looked like the same place. Before he could ask more, the mist behind her began to shift, revealing shapes, shadows that moved like water but carried human outlines. They whispered in low tones, voices overlapping in strange harmony. Sonn could feel them pulling at him, urging him closer. Rhea reached out, grabbing his hand. "You have to decide, Sonn," she said, her grip firm. "If you stay here too long, you'll forget who you are." He wanted to ask what that meant, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out everything else. He saw flashes, moments from his life, his childhood, his failures, the people he lost. The river, the pendant, the voice, it all seemed connected. Then, one of the shadowed figures stepped forward, its face slowly taking shape, and Sonn's breath caught. It looked exactly like him. The figure spoke in his own voice, calm and sure. "You were never meant to fight the flow, Sonn. You were meant to become it." Rhea's hand slipped from his, and the world began to blur again. The two versions of Sonn, the one of flesh and the one of shadow, locked eyes. And in that suspended silence, everything stopped. Sonn stared at his reflection, the shadow version of himself standing across the mist. It felt unreal, yet too vivid to deny. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but something deeper held him still. The air pulsed like a heartbeat, and the whispers circled around him in waves, repeating the same words over and over: flow or fight, flow or fight. The shadow tilted its head slightly, mirroring every breath he took. "You've been resisting for too long," it said. "You thought you could." Rhea's voice broke through the haze. "Sonn, don't listen to it. You're stronger than this." But even as she spoke, her image flickered, fading between light and shadow. She seemed trapped, like she was caught in the current between both worlds. Sonn realized then that the flow wasn't just water. It was time, memory, and choice itself. It carried everything, every decision ever made, every moment ever lost. The pendant in his hand began to glow, a soft, blue light that pulsed with his heartbeat. The shadow reached toward it. "That's the key," it whispered. "It belongs to both of us." Sonn hesitated, then slowly lifted the pendant. The river sound returned, louder, deeper, endless. He felt the pull again, but this time, he didn't resist. Instead, he stepped forward and pressed the pendant against his chest. A rush of light burst outward, and for a moment, everything was silent. The mist dissolved. The shadow vanished. Rhea collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, color returning to her face. The river flowed quietly again, calm and clear. Sonn looked around. It was morning. The city's skyline shimmered in the distance, as if nothing had happened. But when Rhea looked up at him, her expression froze. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Sonn, your reflection." He turned toward the water and froze. The river showed only one figure standing there. Not him, the shadow, smiling back. And just before the ripples broke the surface, the whisper returned, soft and certain. "I'm enjoying this." For a long moment, Sonn looked down at the pendant in his hand. The glow was gone, replaced by a quiet warmth, like the last trace of a heartbeat. For the first time, he felt something he hadn't in a long time: clarity. The confusion, the fear, the endless questions that had followed him, they didn't vanish, but they no longer controlled him. Maybe that was what go with the flow really meant, not surrendering but trusting that sometimes life knows where to take you, even when you don't. As they walked away from the river, the morning sun broke through the clouds, scattering gold across the water. The city was waking up again, cars passing, voices rising, life continuing like nothing had changed. But for Sonn, everything had. He could feel it in every breath, every step. The world hadn't become easier, but it had become lighter. Rhea turned to him with a faint smile. "Do you think we'll ever understand what that was?" she asked. Sonn looked at her, then back at the river. "Maybe we're not supposed to," he said. "Maybe some things aren't meant to be explained. They're just meant to be felt." The pendant caught a ray of sunlight and shimmered faintly, a quiet reminder of the night that changed everything. Sonn slipped it into his pocket, not as a burden, but as a promise, a reminder to stop fighting the current and start flowing with it. As they reached the edge of the street, the city's noise returned, grounding them in the present. Sonn took one last look back at the river, watching it move steadily, endlessly, without hesitation. He smiled to himself and whispered softly, "Go with the flow." And this time, it wasn't a whisper in his ear. It was his own voice, steady and free.